Ooh, two posters. Oh, wait a minute. This is the process shot. I'm Michael. I've lost 2 hours, and I don't think I'm getting them back anytime soon. Space Jam: A New Legacy is a new sports comedy from director Malcolm D. Lee, though I think that's more of a formality with this project. The story more or less concerns superstar basketballer LeBron James and his son, Dom, whose differences and conflicting desires come to a head when, after the two are digitally transported into the servers of Warner Brothers Studios, LeBron is made to play a game of basketball against the server's algorithmic intelligence in order to secure Dom's freedom. However, LeBron's options are limited, and he has little choice but to recruit Bugs Bunny and the Looney Tunes in order to get this done, and they prove to be more trouble than expected. Meanwhile, Dom isn't even sure if he wants to leave this new digital paradise, where he's free to develop his own video game. Having recently seen the first Space Jam movie, I can say with an expert opinion that this sequel misses the mark in more ways than one. The most apparent difference between the two films is in their story and plotting, trading off the relatively simple chain of events of the first film in favor of something a bit stronger, but also more clearly formulaic in this sequel. That is, the story of Space Jam: A New Legacy has some more work put into it beyond simply pulling a basketball star into the world of the Looney Tunes. Now they have to give a reason for him to be there beyond because there won't be a movie without it happening. That's where the storyline of LeBron's son comes into play, and it's really this part that feels more driven by cliche than anything else, falling back on the usual tropes and plot points of a father-son relationship in movies. It's actually a bit worse than that, at least as far as the central concept of this film is concerned, because the overall focus becomes more on this relationship and on LeBron than on the Looney Tunes or the looming basketball game, which ends up feeling more like an afterthought up until it actually begins. Unlike the first film, where the Tunes were given a great amount of focus separate from Michael Jordan until they recruit him, this movie starts with LeBron and sees him finding Bugs Bunny and asking him for help after losing Dom in the Serververse, as it's called. And really, it's kind of a sign of how things have changed in the last 20 years or so. Speaking of the Serververse, which is where Warner Brothers allegedly holds all of their movies and TV shows, this seems like a cheap or low-effort attempt to show off just how much WB actually owns. The reach of their cultural tendrils is put on display in a great number of scenes, most prominently in a montage that puts the Looney Tunes into other WB movies. But overall, this gloating doesn't really serve much purpose to the film story in really any capacity. It feels like WB just wanted an opportunity through this film to say, look at what we own, before moving on. Thankfully, this isn't obnoxious, but it is a bit overdone, especially during the basketball game, where the audience is composed of heroes and villains from across decades of WB's films and TV shows. But, again, it's really a whole lot of nothing, and their presence amounts to little more than cameos. There's still enough focus on LeBron and the Looney Tunes in the story, even though it's mostly about LeBron and his own troubles, really. So, what else does this movie have going for it besides its weak story and lack of focus on the central pitch? Nothing, really. I will say that there's a great amount of special effects and graphics work that is able to sell the environments of the Serververse, and a good portion of the Looney Tunes scenes are animated in 2D, which is always a pleasure to see. But Other than that, there's not much to talk about, which may be the fatal flaw of Space Jam: A New Legacy. Despite the potential to update, satirize, or even subvert the story of the first film and make something new and contemporary from the concept, the sequel falls back on formula and takes the safe way out. It could have taken a risk on giving the Looney Tunes a reintroduction into modern society, but instead they act more as foils for LeBron James and his own story. In the end, the movie just doesn't feel necessary. It doesn't even have a good soundtrack. Space Jam: A New Legacy. Malcolm D. Lee, 2021. 1 star. I don't recommend it. You'll just wish you had 2 hours back. Did I mention this movie is 2 hours somehow? Anyways, that's it for this review. If you liked it more than the movie, leave me a like. If you liked the movie more than this review, then leave me a comment below. If you're a fence sitter, then subscribe for more reviews like this. In the meantime, I'm gonna see if there's a mailbox around here. I want to deliver a strongly worded letter to somebody.